Before I get into this video, a little disclaimer, most of this video is based on facts and experiences. I have played this game from day one. In case some of the information that I say within this video does not make sense or is not in the game, that is because it was removed or updated. Make sure to like this video so that it can get reach, and subscribe so you don't miss another video. And comment down below what your favorite moment in Deepwoken is. Without further ado, why Deepwoken was the best game. Before talking about the current state that Deepwoken is in, we need to see where it started and how it got there. Deepwoken was released in December of 2021. This release was thrilling, as people have been waiting for this release for more than a year. When entering the game, there was no tutorial and no information, and the new world of Deepwoken was shrouded in mystery. No one knew anything except that you would have to level up to become stronger, and that fighting helped you gain experience faster than just using your training gear. For the first day or two, not much people even set sail to the island known as Aricia to go farm the more efficient way, and people who did know stuck with the instructor because it gave more experience and was more efficient at the time. There was also the core elements that made the game last for a long time. When I'm referring to the game, I'm talking about verse 1, and basically the first half of Deepwoken, you could say, I guess. The first core element of the game was the pacing. In the early stages of Deepwoken, there was virtually nothing like boosting. Sure, you can take your friends from Medan and let them get experience, but the weapons you got at the end game were useless if you did not know how to use them. With that being said, it brings me over to the next core element, the learning curve. This is talking from playing the game in the early to mid days of release. I was terrible at PvP. The only real experience I got was from fights, and even within those fights, I could not reliably fight people because of certain things like parry timing that just did not stick while playing in the early days of Deepwoken. There were only two factors and one moment that truly changed my skill. From terrible to godlike, my build and my reflexes, being put to the test in the depths trial against the Enforcer. My third point is fear of losing time. And what I mean by this is fear of losing your build. The previous attempt at trying to do Enforcer with my friends led to me wiping my build because I was unfamiliar with the patterns, and when my character got knocked, my friends were goofing around, so it left enough time for the grip animation to go through. This second attempt was alone, and on a build that was perfect for my playstyle, making me fear all the more losing my build. It was a close call, but I killed the Enforcer, leading me back to my second core element, the learning curve. Everyone has their own moment when they become more enlightened, skill-wise or mentally, making everyone's pace different. What helped with my learning curve were ganks with my friends, finding the perfect build and defeating Enforcer alone, risking my build. After you went through these core elements within Deepwoken, the game was not near done. There were still better weapons and mysteries that you could find if you searched long enough on any island. There were also bosses that gave you rewards like deep gems and end game weapons, but this only lasted for a while. Even though there were some other things that kept the game's endgame interesting like bells, it would pale in comparison to the hype that would surround the release of Layer 2, or as it is called today, Verse 2. To continue the hype train, they decided to increase the output of updates within the game. This is where the game takes a turn to unnecessary changes. One change that really annoyed me was the curved blade of the winds. The simplistic blade and subtle wind effect was enough to convey that the blade was legendary, but then they changed the model to an overhauled, unrecognizable, flashy, and bulky blade. This change was out of the blue and really, for the most part, unneeded. Another example of this was the Hero Blade nerf. If you have watched my previous Deepwoken videos, you would already know that I am a Hero Blade enthusiast. I have been using the Hero Blade ever since I've gotten the blade. The nerf on the Hero Blade was unneeded as well. The only thing they really had to do was make the blade rarer. They nerfed the damage on the Hero Blades, which at the time people enjoyed because of the Hero Blade of Ice spammers. They also nerfed the attack speed on the Hero Blades. They would later add a plethora of weapons that would outdamage Hero Blades by double digits, and the Hero Blades effectively being left in the dark. This was only 2 out of hundreds of changes and updates that they did to fill in the time while they were working on Layer 2. The only thing that can be considered a proper update was H mode, and the idea was not even of their own creation, it was a suggestion. This update did good for the game though, because it would give sufficient loot for killing 100 mobs within the depths that could also spawn on top of you corrupted. The loot varies from enchants to legendary weapons, like Curved Blade of the Winds and Crypt Blade, and any other legendary that they've added on within verse 2, I believe. In my opinion, this was the perfect endgame, because it forced you to do it with friends. Unlike being able to do Duke and Primadon solo, you needed 5 people to start it, making it a good chance to call up your friends to farm some loot. Verse 2 was released after being announced a couple weeks prior. I can remember the experience. I could not get on right away because I was somewhere else at the time, but when I could get on, I was dumbfounded. I understood that the combat would be changed because there was already a video showing that prior, but actually playing it felt extremely uncomfortable. Being able to put your opponent into an air combo just didn't stick with me. The new combat made one variation of Bell completely useless, and made the once fast-paced game now very annoying, unforgiving, and confusing. Initially, I thought this to be the effect of a huge overhauled update and that I would get used to it in a month or two, but I did not. Another letdown was that Verse 2, in every spoiler they showed before releasing it, was made to believe that Verse 2 itself was a whole nother layer, kind of like the depths and the overworld. But instead, it was not. It was a dungeon. I was really hoping for Verse 2 to be an open world experience because of how long it actually took, instead of a dungeon that only probably would take 2 months to make. And a dungeon that has a time limit on how long you can stay there. The only way you could really even leave Layer 2 was if you had Light Hook or you defeated the boss Chaser, which most likely got a bunch of builds permanently wiped because nobody knew how to do any of the two within the beginning, but now it's most likely easy. But still, another problem with this is that if you stay within a server and your friends leave that server, you will forever be in that server without your friends being able to join you. Now, I saw this as a really bad problem because what is the point of doing something with your friends if you're going to be left alone altogether if they leave you, that is. The map split was one of the unnecessary features that was added. If they really wanted to add more, they should have just added more within verse 2, making another layer like everyone else thought the update would be, instead of breaking up the prior knowledge of navigation and infusing new places. Them trying to add this is like trying to upgrade Flat Endgame and recreate the sense of other islands being unexplored. By going through these updates, the base of the game, the lore, started to deteriorate, or most likely is probably still deteriorating right now. There are multiple updates invalidating the lore already within the game, or the lore that the community just started to accept and form theories around. Examples are Element Masters having the ability to use wind mantras. Before, they could only use ice, fire, and lightning because they only lived for the song. In other bits of NPC lore, they talk about how elements, like shadow and wind, drown the song. This update contradicted that statement. They also infused new lore that was basically a different direction from what the game had already built up. They also kept pampering players, putting endgame things right at the start line of the game. Things like Murmur, which took you hours to find and a reasonable amount of time to kill, then train for another additional hour or more, was a perfect system to separate lazy people from people who wanted to make their builds the strongest. Now, instead of the long process of making you build the strongest, instead, you can summon the beast and get maxed murmur depending on your level. I know that multiple people love these kinds of things, but when seen from the perspective of someone who played this game from the beginning, it is more of ignoring the people who experienced all the game had to offer and switching it to an easy game that anyone can just play instead of actually spending time on their skill. They can just get boosted, which is the opposite of what the game was. In the end, it is up to you what you enjoy about Deepwoken, and whether you enjoy the updates that they made on the game or not. If you did make it to the end of this long video, thank you for watching till the end. This video is one of the longer, more research videos that took me a long time to make, as you can see. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another video. Make sure to also like the video so other people may see this. Comment down below, like I said in the beginning, what your favorite moment in Deepwoken is. And most importantly, make sure to have a nice day, guys, and see you guys within the next video.